Welcome, friends. Cast Dice is back on YouTube. Ta-da! This is a first episode, one of many to come, where a friend of mine and I are going to go through the process of the old classic, A Tale of ... number of gamers. And we are going to be looking at completing some classic Warhammer 40,000 armies from editions long past. And in the process, we're going to talk about why these miniatures. We're going to talk about what's the big purpose, what's our end goal, why are we doing this, and are we actually going to play games with these miniatures? And if so, what games? These are all big questions, and they are questions that I could answer myself, but it would be rude not to include my fellow gamer. Joining me today is a gentleman who loves classic miniatures possibly more than I do, and that is saying something because I have an unholy fixation. Joining me, of course, is our good friend John. John, welcome to the show, man. How you doing?
I'm great, Brad. Thanks for having me on.
Now, John, we're going to look at your beautiful visage over a pile of metal as your avatar this time, but we'll have a camera for you next time. Are those your orcs?
Those ones, I believe, are Deathskull Looters and Blood Axe Commandos, I think. A very small portion of my pile of shame. Hopefully to get smaller through this process if all goes well.
Right on. Now, you are doing this with me, but you are also possibly joining another painting challenge with the same models. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, so the project that we'll be talking about today, I will also be hopefully doing as part of the 40K second edition army challenge, which is starting in Feb of this year. I say hopefully because submissions for the project ended on the 7th of January and I haven't received a response yet, so I don't know if I'm in the challenge. If I'm in the challenge, I'll be doing it for that too. If I'm not, I'll be doing it for just this. But either way, painting remains the same.
Exactly. And we're going to be holding each other to account, but not in a super stressful, you must get this done kind of way, but in a way that celebrates the models and the miniatures that we have collected and that we will continue, I'm sure, to collect and talk about and play games with, because you and I recently played a game of second edition, didn't we?
We did. We did. My first game of second edition in, oh God, what year are we in? Not quite 30 years, but
yeah,
closer to 30 years than I'd like to admit.
Yeah, ditto. Me too. Now, I started playing 40K in the early days of Rogue Trader. I remember fondly when the RTB-01 Marines came out, because I am that old. But as part of that, I collected a massive Space Marine army, and I'll talk about that later. But I loved just everything that Rogue Trader brought. The ethos, the universe, the description of what a bolter did. I mean, you name it, I was all about it as a kid. And I was a kid. I was about 13 the first time I saw something with Rogue Trader on it, maybe 12. And I was all in from reading the description of literally what a bolter did when a kid, Shay McNamara, brought the Rogue Trader book to school one day. I was a longtime gamer, all about that. But this universe really hooked me in a way that previous games, Car Wars aside, had not up until that point. So I was 100% in with the Rogue Trader universe. But I don't know if I ever played that game right because I was a kid. And so you and I played a game of Rogue Trader in 2020 once Melbourne came out of its big famous lockdown. And it was achingly clunky. And I say that out of pure love for everything Rogue Trader. And it's funny how many of my memories of Warhammer 40,000 are really third edition and after. And having played second edition with you and Rogue Trader, it's funny how things have changed over time. Now that was my stepping on point. What was your big stepping on point for the universe of 40K, so to speak?
Yeah, so interesting you say you're about 13. So I was 13 when second edition 40K was released.
Mm.
So I had I had certainly played games before that. So I mean I came from a role-playing background before that. So as a kid,
Mm-hmm.
I played some D&D with friends. I had I think I'm really sketchy on the chronology of some of this stuff. It is going back a ways, but I don't think Second Ed was my first war game. I'm almost certain I'd played fantasy before that. I could not tell you if I ever played Rogue Trader before our game in 2020. So I had certainly read the books. I still have my original copy of Rogue Trader, as very worn as it is.
Mm-hmm.
But I might have just been reading the fluff. I don't know if I ever played it. If I did, it was not very much because it would have been around 13 when I started wargaming proper. And of course, that was the advent of Second Ed, and that was the big Second Ed box,
Yeah.
which was accessible, I think, in a way that, I mean, especially 1990s in Australia, the range of miniatures that were available and the number of, I mean, we didn't have Games Workshop stores back then,
Yeah.
And so, you got what you could get. And so, before second edition, getting like two full forces on the table was definitely more challenging. And second edition, you got the box, you got the Space Marines, you got the Orcs, and you could, they had missions out of the box that you
Yeah.
could play with the miniatures, and of course, let's not forget the cardboard Orc Dreadnought
Mm-hmm.
in that
Classic.
box. That's right. So, yeah, so for me, 40K is second edition. It is second edition, and it has only really ever been second edition because I stopped playing, I think, in 1998, which I believe is the year that third edition released.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was when I turned 18. And, you know, as anyone who has turned 18 probably knows, life can change pretty dramatically at that point in time.
Yes.
There's certain things that become available to you that weren't previously, maybe. Certain life choices. And yeah, I was, I moved around a lot, and, from place to place with like a backpack worth of stuff. So I did not have an army with me. I can say that much. So yeah, so for me, 40K is second edition. I have been playing war games again more recently, within the last decade, but I haven't. Ooh, have I played? I mean, we played Rogue Trader and we played a game third
Mhm.
edition, but outside of that, I don't know if I've played a single GW game since I got back into wargaming. So yeah, so when I say 40K for me is second, it literally that is that is the
Yeah.
only era I played in.
Well, let's talk about what we're doing because I feel like we could both go down some tangents story wise, and I think we're both used to the audio format. But let's get into what are you building for this challenge? Because the end goal for us is to have, for me, maybe in the next 6 to 7 months, to have a fully painted classic Space Marine army. You have a few more models. You might take a little bit longer, but I'm sure I will be adding to things as well. What has drawn you? What is called to you? What is making you choose that as your army?
Yeah. So the goal here is to paint 1,000 points of second edition orcs in the next 6 months. That's the goal. That's what I'm doing as part of that's what I've submitted to the Second Ed Army Challenge. But as I said, regardless of whether or not that happens, that remains the goal. So as to why second edition orcs, I mean, we've got that image up on the screen at the moment. I think that pretty much answers it, to be to be quite frank. Like, for anyone that has any affection for second, orcs are, like, in a lot of ways, they're like the poster child of second edition. They're bright, they're colorful, and they're wacky.
Yeah.
And that's what second edition is. It is bright and colorful and wacky. And when I think second, I think orcs. I didn't own orcs as a kid. The friend I played with did. For me, as young as I was, I always went for the cheap option, right? So, Space Marines, because they were in the box, and you get, your 2 squads of monopose tactical Marines, and you can bang a couple of extra models on there, and you got a full force. And as I got older and broodier, I went to Chaos.
Of course you did.
Yeah, of course I did. Yeah. So, but yeah. Look. But as I look back at second edition, and as I think about second edition, it is orcs that I'm drawn to more than anything else. Again, they're just so fun. They're just so fun, as you can see, like in those images you're putting up, like,
Now, there are a lot of clans of different orcs, and the iconography changes quite a lot from clan to clan. And the models do too in second edition. Is there a clan in particular that is calling out to you that you really want to do?
Yeah, so second ed is weird in this. So if I recall correctly, I think Rogue Trader, you would have whole armies of one clan. At least that's what it is in the source books. That's how it's written. And then I want to say even third onwards, I think when third released, there were sort of no orc clans, but then they sort of patched them in later, as it were, through White Dwarf. And I'm obviously not very knowledgeable about later editions, but my sense is that in later editions you play a clan. So in second, you would often have a hodgepodge of different clans in a single army, and they had different options, but there was no sort of restriction on combination. Having said all of that, I am in this 1,000 points painting exclusively Death Skulls. Yeah, look, you've got that beautiful Paul Bonner artwork up on the screen. This is a personal favorite of mine. This is, I think, Rogue Trader era, but just
that top hat will make a later appearance in this slideshow, right?
Yes, it will. Yes, I've got a top hat coming back. Yeah, love Death Skulls. Death Skulls are great fun. Of course, in second, they were big for just having lots and lots of heavy weapons. But really, for me, it's the color scheme, or when I say color scheme, it's the mess of colors that I love about Death Skulls. The lore has them as looters that are like, putting together all sorts of things from all sorts of origins, and as a result, they're just this great clash of bright colors and variety, which I absolutely love. It's a bit of a nightmare to paint, if I'm being honest. But yeah, look, just really, really fun. Really, really interesting. I've got a bit of a system going. I should say, look, I'm going to have a bit of a tangent here, if that's okay with you.
Please.
As we go through some of this old artwork, I just want to put this out there, because this is something that I myself have had to come to terms with, as I've like gone back and collected all these old miniatures and gone through all this beautiful old artwork and so forth. Is that there's some stuff in there that doesn't really align with my values, and stuff that makes me a bit uncomfortable. Like there's swastikas throughout early orc stuff. Rogue Trade is particularly bad for it, but it makes its way into second as well. And there's, I mean, look, early 40k is all pastiche, right? It's all a mishmash of different stuff, but there's a lot of especially in the orcs, but throughout 40k, there's a lot of use of stereotypes and traditional dress of First Nations people and that sort of stuff. And it's easy to kind of say, oh well, this is from a different era, and just sort of hand wave it, but also we're making a decision here, right, to collect and to paint these models, the models that we choose, and we're choosing to do the banners that we're doing and what have you. And so my choice is to, look, really basic, just acknowledge it, but also in what I'm doing. I love the banners. I'm going to be doing lots of banners. That's the plan. But they're
second hand, baby.
Yeah. But they're not going to have swastikas on them. Just to be clear. Models is a little bit, I'll be avoiding anything that's really obvious caricatures of real world First Nations cultures and that sort of thing.
So I shouldn't bring up pygmies. We're not doing those models.
We're not doing those models. There's a few things that we're just not doing.
Right, those are the most. Even as a kid, I looked at those models and was like, "Wow, that's problematic."
Yeah.
And I was not as a kid. I a lot of that went right over my head. But even as a kid, that hit me square in the face like a brick. But moving beyond pygmies, I can't help but notice that the Death Skull art that we have here has blue faces. So you almost have a Braveheart-esque blue skulls. Go figure. But you also have penal colony iconography worked into a lot of the cloth, that pointing arrow symbol, which I didn't know until I moved to Australia was I guess a British penal prison garb print. As an adult looking at these, there's even more symbolism there than I thought. I just thought it was a design on a shirt. I didn't realize it had meaning. So yeah.
So there's fluff in. I want to say. Here we go, but I could be wrong. It's one of the 3 orc books for Rogue Trader, the orc expansions, that has a short story in it, I believe, about an orc space hulk coming across a penal colony and stealing their clothes. The Death Skull stealing their clothes and incorporating it into, which I believe is where those designs come from. In the lore, of course, which is kind of wild. But they do. I'm not sure if I've included it in these slides, but there absolutely are in some of the later pictures, or some of the actual miniatures do have those arrows included in the paint jobs, which is amazing. I'm not sure I'll be doing that. I'll be painting a lot of miniatures in this project, and I'm hoping to do some freehand, but we'll see. We'll see what we get to. So yeah, you mentioned the blue faces, which obviously Death Skulls, that's like their signature look, is the blue face paint. The image you've got up at the moment actually is quite interesting in that it's got the Speed Freaks on the sorry, the Evil Sons on the left,
That's right.
and the Death Skulls on the right. And they both have face paint, and like it wasn't just Death Skulls that had face paint in this
Right.
this sort of Road Trader era, and even in second, you'll see like some of the official paint jobs have got. You'll see Equal Sons with red face paint and all sorts of stuff. But as I understand it, the Death Skulls blue face paint has sort of persisted over time. And that's absolutely something that I'll be incorporating into my paint schemes. I do also, just as we're looking at this wonderful piece of art, of course, this is the cover art from Here We Go, I believe.
It's the
Oh
art.
no, it's
the art from the orc version of RTB01, the orc.
It is, that's right. So it's also the Space Orcs box set, but it's one of the books as well. Front cover's the Death Skulls, back cover is the Evil Sons.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to call attention to the guy in the top left who's slapping the back of his bolter, because that image is burned into, I don't know what, it's so ridiculous. I love it so much. I love that pose. It is such nonsense and it makes no sense at all. And I love it with all my heart. And it is so early 40K.
Yeah. That's one way to stop recoil. Hold your hand against the back of your gun.
Oh, look, it is. Look, maybe there's some real world analog of this. I have no idea, but it's always looked wild to me. I will note that the sculptor Trollet Miniatures has recently done a version of it, which is wonderful. But yeah, love that guy. Love this image. Really, really great stuff.
Well, you have already started painting models, and you're a very talented painter, and you're not going to say it yourself, so I'm going to say it for you. You've spent a lot of time, and I don't want to say you've been cheating, because you started these ages ago, but you have 2 massive squads of grots, metal grots, I might add. Not the cheapest models to come by in today's economy. You have 2 massive squads of these that you have painstakingly already painted, and they're ready to go. So am I correct? Is the worst of your army done? I know you still have 10,000 models to paint, but the goblins are like 2 points each or something. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, they're 5 points. They're 5. I think by 3rd edition they turn into 3 points or something horrible. But yes, so yeah, like points to dollar in today's market for metal grots. Yeah, these have got to be some of the worst points to dollar equivalency in all of miniatures at the moment. But yeah, so look, I mean, these are fantastic. These old Kev Adams 2nd edition Gretchen sculpts, which of course are, I mean, they're hard to get because nobody bought them at the time, is my understanding. This is certainly the law is that everybody got 40 grots in the starter box set. You get your 40 plastic monopose grots, and nobody ever wanted to paint more than 40 grots, right? Like 40 is already a lot. And so you've got
40 free grots in the box.
That's right.
And then now you need to spend, if you're going to spend money on getting more grots, you could maybe get them off a friend who also got the box.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, metal grots weren't exactly cheap at the time. They're way more expensive now, but they would have been more expensive than the plastic grots. So there's a whole lot of factors there.
Yeah, that's right. So, orcs are possibly the most popular 2nd edition faction that you can, that people are collecting these days. And, Kev Adams sculpts tend to be the most popular of those. And then, as you say, like Gretchen, the metal Gretchen were maybe some of the least purchased sculpts back in the 90s. So yeah, combination of factors means these guys are hard to get, and pricey. So I was lucky enough, silly enough during the pandemic to go on a bit of a mission to get as many of these guys as I could, and built up 20 of the auto gun grots, 20 of the auto pistol grots, and yeah, I made a decision when I started painting my second edition orcs to sort of get this hurdle out of the way, right? Because as you say, it's a lot of work to go through, especially when you're doing some silly mixed match color scheme like I am. So, but it has given me the opportunity to develop a bit of a batch painting style for this sort of a hodgepodge rainbow, which has been really good. So I was able to batch paint them. They did take a while. I am a slow painter.
We both are, which is why we're doing this.
Yeah. So they're not part of my 1,000 points that I'll be painting. They are. So I've already got 200 points on top of that painted. But and of course they will be making an appearance in any orc army I run. But
yes,
yeah, they're sort of the test of my color scheme going forward. So there they are, going up against some Eldar that I did not paint, but in front of some wonderful. So these are the scratch-built buildings from freebooters, the Rogue Trader era orc expansion freebooters. In the back, there was a how to build orc buildings, and this is the building that they taught you to build. So kids and I sat down months ago and together made one each, and just had an absolute blast doing them. Recommend it to anybody. So much fun.
Slave labor, good family time.
That's right. Yeah, and there's the full 40 of them standing in front of their houses. So hopefully, again, low points, lots of models, but makes for a nice starting point for an army. That's right. So they're not, tabletop legal yet until they've gotten a couple of other models to go with them. At least a war boss. I think if I throw a war boss in there, I could legally run them. I don't think there's much of an army. One war boss, 40 grots, but
Well, let's talk about what you are going to paint, because you do have things broken down. What are some of the chunks that you're hoping to achieve with this challenge?
Yeah. So the layout here is sort of how we were asked to lay it out for the second edition army challenge. So broken into 5 lots over 6 months. You get 1 month as a mulligan, so 1 month free, as it were, if you don't get your project done. So something I struggle with a bit with these sorts of challenges is sometimes you end up breaking things up into what are not necessarily like natural collections of minis. And I have struggled with that a little bit here. I've tried to be as consistent as possible, but again, just because the way the orc points work, it's, an orc boy is 12 points, right? So if you do 10 boys, it's 120 points, which we're supposed to be doing 200 points a month. So you can't just do 10 boys. So I've tried my best to still keep it manageable, and we're going to see how that works out for me. Essentially, I'm trying to get the core of an army down. I've got a lot of extra stuff to add on to it, but I want to have like the basis for, all right, I've got everything I need to run a second ed army. And then anything I add to it is just that. It's like tacking it on the side. Okay, I feel like throwing in some buggies, and I can do some buggies to add to it, or I want to add in I pay $10,000 and get an orc stomper, and put that in the army or whatever it is,
Exactly.
But this is like the core. So I've got so within this, there's 20 boys with bolters, which would be 2 squads under Death Skulls rules, plus 6 Death Skulls with heavy weapons. They're not custom combi weapons. They're just a variety of different heavy weapons. I do have the looters, the custom combi weapon minis, and I hope to do those later, but starting off with just a variety of, because it's more flexible to have like las cannons and heavy bolters and what have you, plus a couple of dreadnoughts, a couple of squid catapults, and a bunch of characters. And yeah, so together that makes up 1,000 points.
Yeah, characters are an easy way to bulk things out. So
for most factions, it doesn't help that in orc terms they're mostly worth 18 points.
True.
but
True.
But I need them. So you need a war boss. You need a mechanic or mechaniac to have dreadnoughts. You need a pain boy to run dreadnoughts. You need a runt herd to run squid catapults. So, can't actually run the other stuff without the characters. So it's kind of necessary.
Sounds very familiar to what I'm going to be saying in a minute.
Yep.
John, we will have lots more to say in future episodes. I know that we're going a bit long, but let's go into specifically what is your first goal. When we get to you next time, what are you hoping to have done, or at least mostly done?
Okay, so I'm going to start this with a caveat. So the best way to really commit to a project.
Love it.
So theoretically, my first block of minis is my war boss, my banner bearer, and 6 boys with bolters. And I'm starting with those because, that is, I need those to run the army. Without a war boss, the army's not legal. Without a banner bearer, the army runs away. And, without orcs, it's not much of an orc army. So
100%.
This is why I'm planning on starting with this. I haven't. Part of me also wants to kind of start with a dread, to be honest. But I think this is my first block that I'm painting. Obviously, you'll see there's the back banner there on the boss, plus the banner bearer is going to have a big old banner as well. I'm planning to do those freehand, so whether or not we'll see those in at the end of Feb, I don't know, but I would love to have them done. The banners may end up being a bit of a when I have time addition, but it'll be interesting. This is a lot more minis than I would normally paint in a month, so I'll definitely get something painted. We'll see if it's this many. I hope it is.
Well, we shall see shortly. I also know that we were going to talk a little bit about what 3D printing means to find some of those harder to find bits.
Yeah,
but we'll save that for another episode.
Sure.
That is another whole conversation, and that's a fascinating topic in and of itself.
100%.
Now, it's ironic that if we think about second edition, that the box art is literally Blood Angels versus Orcs. Of course, we talked about how that's the contents of the second edition box. And in true Tale of Two Gamers painting challenges, I'm going to be the other half of that coin, and I'm going to be playing and painting Blood Angels. Now, Mark Gibbons is absolutely a dead set legend. He did the art for the Blood Angels on the left-hand side, and I believe the right, both sides of the screen. And I know he inspired you as well, John. But for me, the Angels of Death Codex was just so integral to how second edition played on the tabletop. And I can talk about some of my grand tournament experiences and the armies I painted for those. But for me, the Blood Angels were just something that were such a big, they were the sort of Space Marine chapter And the first time I went to the UK a million years ago, I went with my parents. And while we were there, we stopped at a Games Workshop and I got White Dwarf issue 139. And on the plane ride home, I feverishly reread the rules for Space Fleet about 100 times. Still don't understand it. But I read and reread the Blood Angels Space Marine army that was broken down in that issue. Now, most of it was written by Andy Chambers, and he talked about what he put in the Force and why. And I found that fascinating as a kid to wait, there's a reason you would do this? Why would you do that? And it was eye-opening, and it changed the way that I looked at miniature wargaming literally forever. But most of the models in that army, if not all of them, were painted by Tim Prow, who also does a whole big painting section in that issue. And the models were just gorgeous. They were some of the most highlighted orangish red models I'd ever seen. They just glowed off the paper as I was reading in that dark plane, and had that crappy light coming from over my shoulder. And for me, it was just it just made sense. And of course, Blood Angels had always kind of been part of that classic RTB01 aesthetic for me. One of the very first images of Space Marines that I can remember was from a Dragon magazine, because like you, I also came from other games. And it was an advertisement for the original like Warhammer Fortress castle, but it was using 40K models on it. And there was a picture in the corner of that of a red Space Marine holding up. It was bald, had a bionic eye, and had his pistol up, and was clearly like yelling to like, all right, guys, let's go over the wall. And that image, I just spoke to me in a way that I cut it out and stuck it on my binder at school with a bunch of other gaming images. But that was the quintessential Space Marine for me. And that really stuck. And then, of course, reading the Rogue Trader book later, the Blood Angels were one of the chapters. And when I first got my RTB01 models, the very first Marine army I ever painted were Dark Angels. I rattle canned them all black. I dry brushed them all a very light silver. Then I painted their weapons metallic, and I put some red stripes on their shoulder pads because I couldn't paint the Dark Angels logo. And I was done. And I thought I was the hottest guy ever because I had a Space Marine army. And that took me, in my childhood, forever in my mind to paint. But I did have multiple boxes of RTB01 models, those classic Space Marines, plus a bunch of metal and everything else. And sadly, at some point in my life, I actually threw away the army because they were so badly painted. And I was moving house. And I had everything from Land Raiders to Land Speeders to like rare models. It kills me that I did that. I mean, to be fair, they were spray painted so thick with paint, and I would have been embarrassed to put on tabletop. But now it would kill me. I would love to put them on the tabletop. As is. Anyway, last year I tried painting a Dark Angel just to see what it was like. And now that I'm a better painter, it came out fairly well. I over highlighted it, and I have some notes for if I ever want to do more, and I might. However, for me, I really want to do Blood Angels because I was part of the Blood Angels sales team when I worked for Games Workshop. In fact, my goodbye present from Games Workshop is a shirt that I'm sure I'll wear in a future episode that features a Blood Angel logo on it and a Death Company logo. And there's a story in there too, fans, but we'll save that for another episode. But I had I have quite a few metal Rogue Trader Space Marines that I've been trying to paint for 20 years. And I've been acquiring more here and there. But what I didn't have were the plastics. I only had a few And I had two people reach out and donate a bunch to me. One is our good friend Rick Vav. He gave me the models that are on the screen. They are gorgeous, just already cleaned up, already primed white, already ready to go. And so I've already started painting some of those, like you've started with your grots. So I'm going to do a little bit with those, but I am also going to dig into the small mountain of metal marines that I have.
Yes,
Well.
nice.
Now, I have been painting these. It took me a while to come up with a paint scheme that I liked. Before anyone starts throwing shade at my paint jobs, I have not done the bases on purpose. I'm thinking a desert base. For some reason, Space Marines on a desert planet screams Rogue Trader / Second Ed to me. So I really want to do that. And I know it's sacrilege because Goblin Green bases, but you can comment below. Am I wrong for wanting to do classic models with desert bases? I just think the red and the beige will go together well. I don't know.
I think am I so I mean, obviously, Goblin Green bases all the way. It's all you'll be seeing from me 100% of the time. However, having said that, Rogue Trader wasn't all Goblin Green, right? Like, I feel
No.
like the Goblin Green supremacy was that's like Second Ed, where it was just everywhere, right? I feel
Yeah.
like Rogue Trader, there's an argument to be made that there are alternatives that are, era appropriate. Not that you need to be area appropriate. To be clear, paint whatever you like the way you want to, the way you like to paint it. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure Rogue Trader wasn't all Goblin Green, so I reckon you can get away with that
Goblin
one.
Green really came into its heyday with Second Ed in my mind. Now I'm very keen to hand paint all the Blood Angel logos on the shoulders. I'm just going to do a lot of practicing first. I know a lot of you might say, but decals. And I have actually acquired a big pile of Rogue Trader decals. But every time I use a proper decal, I make a mess of it. So I'm going to be going out of my way to hand paint all of my Blood Angel symbols. And we'll see where we end up. My goal for the next time that we do this is to paint the rest of my tactical squad, because there's only 5 Space Marines painted so far, a combat squad. And if I'm getting through, it's the first in Australia, the school year starts really the 1st of February. And since February is going to be intense, I'm a teacher and I'm going to be very, very busy. So I'm going to paint hopefully 5 more of these and a Tech Marine, because as John rightly pointed out, with the orcs, you need to have, Pain Boys and Mech Boys to have dreadnoughts. Well, I want a dreadnought too, because Furiosa dreadnoughts are amazing and they are iconic with Blood Angel. And so I will be painting a Tech Marine, and hopefully it will be soon. Now, I have also been slowly acquiring Second Ed Space Marines, and I might paint some of those as well, although they may not be Blood Angels, because I want this army to be entirely Rogue Trader, Marine appropriate. Some of the gear I might throw in might be from slightly later Space Marine plastics, as in Second Ed, as far as some of the special weapons or assault weapons, but we'll see how that goes. Because some of those bled over to late Rogue Trader anyway. I need to do some research. But I really, really am excited to have these old classic models, working some of those classic metals in there, and just, make the army that I wish I had as a kid.
And I think you're right. I mean, I don't know about Space Marines. I'm not too au fait with Space Marines, but I know with the orcs, like a lot of the classic Second Ed, or what I think of as classic Second Ed orc miniatures, like 89 and 91 sculpts. So they actually came out during the Rogue Trader era. Space Marine might be the same, where there's just that big crossover period.
Well, John, you and I have recently, as I said, played a game of Second Ed, and the goal here is to play another one, this time
Mm-hmm.
with armies that we've painted here. Now, we might
Mm-hmm.
play a few smaller games when we start painting some things and have things finished. That's one of the goals here, and we can
Mm-hmm.
share how that game goes. Maybe even we'll see how we go with live streaming, but we can at least do a run through with photos. But friends, if you have liked what you've heard, please like and subscribe. It helps the algorithm, blah, blah, blah. I've been told you should say these things. But also, really, if there's something that we have said that you take umbrage with or that you would like to interact with, please do message below in the comments and let us know what you think, because we would like to know. We are hoping to do this monthly. And this one's long, 45 minutes, but the goal here is to have something that, we can be proud of at the end. So if there's something you'd like to see, or you have other feedback or questions, please do comment below. John, any final words?
No, I think that covers it. I will say, can't speak for you, Brad, but I will say for myself, this is not intended to be a painting tutorial. This is not about telling you how to paint. This is not a comparison. I do not know all the skills and techniques and so on and so forth. I paint recreationally for myself, and this is a great way for to paint with a mate and get a project done. It's not going to come out amazing. Don't expect Golden Demon standard here. This is these miniatures are for the tabletop, and they are going to be played with.
I hear what you're saying, but I've seen your grots. So I'm just going to say I'm looking forward to seeing what you do. I think it's going to be a lot of fun models with a lot of fun paint jobs, and it's going to look sweet on the tabletop, man. So we have a lot to celebrate here, both classic model wise, classic game wise, and just sharing some of our memories of these times, because there is some fantastic content from White Dwarf magazine and just from Games Workshop books in general from this era that I really want to kind of unpack in some of these episodes. So I think we got a lot to talk about. Looking forward to it.
Me too.
All right, friends. As always, you can find Cast Dice on your favorite podcatchers. This is a video only stream. You will find it on YouTube. However, if you want to see the other things that we do, please do check us out on your podcatcher of choice. Until next time, have a good run and enjoy classic models and classic miniatures. Good night.